Hello again. Essay here. Anyone who is familiar with Jeffrey Epstein, I don't have nothing to say to you. You already know what the deal is. And of course, unless you're living under a rock for like the last 10, 20 years, you probably know something about Jeffrey Epstein. However, the saga of Jeffrey Epstein may not be over. And of course, all of you've heard that ever since old Trump has become president, there's been a whole bunch of scuttlebutt about the Epstein files and whether the public will see the truth behind it. Well, something happened today that makes you wonder if we may never, ever know the whole truth. Now, I'm going to show you a snippet of a video from Clayton Morris over at Redacted, and you have to see it for yourself to believe it. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Let's talk about the Epstein files. We just got, we're going to dive a little bit more deeply into this a little bit later in the show with Owen Schroyer from InfoWars to kind of met out some of this. Is this like a limited hangout? But first, we just kind of want to bring you the breaking news out of D.C. because we're all sort of watching how is this being rolled out. And there's really, honestly, there's a war going on right now in the intelligence community, specifically between the DOJ, it looks like, and the FBI. But Nick Sorter posted this a short time ago. Alina Habba says that she just met with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and does expect the Epstein list to come out today, describing it as shocking. Habba says that she absolutely expects criminal charges to come as a result. Arrests need to come quickly to these fiends, Nick writes. So then in DC today, there was this like dog and pony show where, and some of these people are our friends, so I'm not discounting that they were called. And of course, if Redacted was called and said, hey, would you like to come to the White House and receive a binder of Epstein information? I'd be there 100%. But this is how it was being handled today. You had influencers, folks like Liz Wheeler and DC Drano. Here's Liz Wheeler posting that she got a binder of Epstein files today, exclusive, she writes. Well, it's not exclusive because there were a number of other influencers there next to her, and here's a whole host of them. There's, on the left, there's DC Drano, Rogan O'Hanley, who's a lawyer. There's Liz Wheeler. There's a number of other individuals there, Jack Posobiec, and others. Again, friends of the show, and fine, they get access to these files, whatever these are. Now, Redacted has learned, our team has learned through sources that these binders are nothing more than publicly available Epstein information. This is all public. So everything that's in these binders, according to sources on the Redacted team, this is all from our own reporting that these are all publicly available information.
So then it's just merchandise? It's just Epstein merchandise?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just collated nicely. You know, like
what is
someone
the
has
optics of this?
Someone like has a whole blog, like they've written, thousands of blog posts over the years, and then they and then they collate it nicely into a binder. So I'm not exactly sure, but here's a group, there's the group of influencers. Here's Rogan O'Hanley, here's Simon Godek says, Epstein was.
He says Epstein was most likely a Mossad agent. We've had Whitney Webb on this show so many times to flush that out. She has 2 books on the matter. But that does seem like something anybody who studies Epstein does not seem to think that is a stretch. So he's saying that the influencers here seem to be very pro-Israel. Is that a connection that we can make? It's early. We're all having knee-jerk reactions. But the fact that the people there... So again... Are we going to get actually that connection? We've been waiting to hear from Whitney Webb because she's going to be able to parse out. She's the one, obviously, who knows this in depth, and she's going to be able to say, we've been given this in order to not see this. Here's
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who says, I nor the task force were given or reviewed the Epstein documents being released today. A New York Post story just revealed that the documents will simply be Epstein's phone book. This is not what we or the American people asked for. Get us the information we asked for instead of leaking old information to the press. Now, you'll recall members of Congress have been calling on the Attorney General's office to get this information. They've been asking them privately to give them the information, and they've not heard. People had to jump on social media to put pressure on the Attorney General's office. But it turns out then we learned that the FBI has been destroying evidence. So there, and Kash Patel is in there, I guess, trying to stop that from happening. It's hard to say at this point. I've heard from separate sources at the FBI today who told me that there are terabytes of data inside the FBI that apparently was part of this destroyed evidence. Now, those terabytes of data and those pieces were video evidence from Epstein's house in New York City and from his island. Terabytes of video footage, which may or may not include Bill Clinton, as eyewitnesses have said, with younger women inside on Epstein Island.
Would
or
that
those
be a
individuals
shock,
in his house.
given the Lewinsky scandal? Come on.
No, it's not a shock at all, but we deserve to see this video footage.
Right.
If you're going to give us like a phone book of redacted names of victims, that's one thing. We want to see the video footage that you have access to. But if the FBI has been actively destroying it to cover their tracks, this is what we want answers from Kash Patel on. So there is definitely a war going on. I mean, you can sugarcoat it any way you want, but this is exactly happening here. Now, here's a letter that was also just leaked a few hours ago from AG Bondi to Director Patel. I don't know if we verified if this is...
It is verifiable because I think that the influencers that were pictured there have published this. So I believe this is in the files that they received. And this is from AG Bondi to Director Patel saying, before you came into office, I requested the full Epstein file, but I've only received 200 pages, which are flight logs, contact lists, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. But I know I have been informed that there's more. This is not all of it, and you are instructed to give me all of it. Now, she's been on many times since the cabinet meeting, says, all of us cabinet members are friends. We've worked together. So this is something that she's sending to a contemporary, someone she knows well, is Kash Patel. And she's saying, now that you're in there, I expect all of it, please. Right now, it's friendly. But if you look at this post from Marjorie Taylor Greene, it may not remain that way. She is saying, Marjorie Taylor Greene said just minutes ago, this is a war raging within the government. She says it is coming. There will be more, but the resistance will be beaten and the truth will be revealed. Now, we don't have any indication that Kash Patel himself is the wall that AG Bondi has to get over. So who is it? Who is still the wall? Is it the documents that were... What is it, right? And I guess another one of my questions is, what did they intend with this optic of binders? What did the White House intend for us to think, given that they may be full of previously disclosed information? Let's just flush that out, Clayton. What do you think the best of intentions might have been?
By whom? I'm sorry.
By the White House for printing this out.
I don't know. I mean, can we put up Laura Loomer's comments here? Apparently, Laura Loomer was not among the influencers invited. She's, very pro-Israel, of course. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, according to the other post that we just showed you. But she says, look, I love President Trump, but how embarrassing for the Trump administration that the release of the Epstein files has been fumbled by giving files regarding a landmark pedophile scandal to a group of influencers instead of having an official agency release them. Not a good look. So I don't know. Again, according to our team here at Redacted and sources that we've spoken to, these files are all publicly available. What these binders are, and it says on the binder, phase 1. So is this just like hey, here's a summary of what's already out there and available for you. You can read up and go through them. Phase 2, who knows at this point what's going to come from phase 2. So maybe it's just to say we've got something in the works for you.
And you cannot, are they going to breadcrumb us for how long? Also, if it's a phone book, well, we already have phone logs from court cases in Florida.
WikiLeaks already released a lot of this stuff.
Right,
yeah.
And a lot of those, what are those pink little note cards? We saw those from people who had just simply called him. Yeah. President Trump was in that several times, had called Epstein, left messages with his phone number, and it's in a female writing saying, call him back about this. So will his name be in this contact list? Because we've already seen that. We can't surmise lies very much from it. And also one point that I continue to make is they can't just release a client list unless they're going to actually indict these people, because we have the presumption of innocence and a right to a fair trial. So if you say, okay, it's Shmom Manx, right? That person then should be indicted and get to fight his innocence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Well, we're going to follow this throughout the show today, and I spoke to Owen Schroyer. He's going to be joining us in just a little bit later in the show to get his take on this. He's been on this story for a long, long time as well. So, is this a limited hangout? Let us know in the comments. By the way,
Okay, you saw that. Now, of course, some of you are thinking, "Oh, well, they're probably not finished leasing the files." Okay, I'll concede that. And yet, the question is, as you saw in Clayton's video, why would this Bondi woman, who's supposed to be the new AG, go to such a big hoopla over a bunch of information that's been in the public eye for at least a full decade? And then, of course, as you saw in Clayton's video, they had you notice, didn't see it regular news media, did you? You didn't see ABC, NBC, CBS, or even CNN collecting their little pamphlet. Yeah, I noticed that. It was mostly YouTuber types, like libs of TikTok. And I'm sitting there thinking, that is kind of odd. Now, of course, as Clayton said, as you saw what Clayton said in his video, he said that if he had gotten an invitation to go to the White House to pick up his pamphlet, he would have gone so too. Yeah, and he probably would have been very disappointed afterwards when he saw what was inside. Yeah, talk about booby prize. But then, as you saw in Clayton's video, there was a letter from Bondi to Kash Patel over there at the Hoover Building, basically saying, what the fuck? In so many words. And you know what? I agree. Indeed, old Timmy Pool, he put a video out just today basically claiming that someone gave him a copy of the same letter that was in those pamphlets, where Bondi was basically reading Kash Patel, the riot act, saying, I'm getting word that there are thousands and thousands of documents that have yet to be released. And that supposedly those documents are way up there in, what do you call it, the Southern District of New York, i.e. New York City, Manhattan office. And then at that point you say, why are they doing up there? Why not they down there at the Hoover Building in D.C.? Yeah, it's very suspicious. And then, wait for it, you ready? Today, Mark Dice, he put out a video too, basically saying that people like libs of TikTok were snookered. And I'm thinking, But what I find so peculiar about this whole situation is that these people went through this whole, for loss of a better word, charade in the first place. I mean, if Bondi, the AG, knew she didn't have all the files and that she only had a small segment that had been in the public eye for, since the waning days of Obama, why did she go through with this? I mean, it makes you think. I mean, now some of you saying, oh, maybe she's just, dangling a little red meat to keep people interested. And I'm thinking, hey, she don't need to do that. There are untold numbers of people out there who do not need to be enticed by little, little kiblets and bits of information about Epstein. They don't need it. Because Epstein is a huge affair. And of course, some of you right now saying, oh, you're talking about what Bernstein said about bigger than Watergate? Yes. Let's not pretend. Epstein is bigger than Watergate. Indeed, it's bigger than the Teapot Dome scandal. that happened back a century ago. Because what you're talking about here is a person, basically a cipher, who came out of nowhere and within a matter of a few short decades became one of the most well traveled jet setter in modern times. I mean, remember, he hobnobbed with the damn Prince Andrew, you know, the heir to the throne of bloody England. He hung out with tycoons such as Trump until Trump got wise to this guy. And, of course, old Bill Gates. But that's just the surface. How far does this rabbit hole go? And that's why people are still interested in Epstein, even though the guy is dead and buried. And of course, as we saw what happened to his writing buddy Maxwell, yeah. You say that this thing almost feels like the Kennedy assassination, in the sense that everything that we thought we knew wasn't true, and that like someone was basically leading us around by the nose. Yeah. Because, for example, people for years have been sitting there saying that Epstein was working for Mossad. And I'm thinking, I guess you could probably make some assumptions about that, considering the fact that, Elaine, Maxwell, her father, Maxwell, he had a similar curious trajectory in life. I mean, if you look at her background, namely her father, he came from nothing. He was a poor refugee from Czechoslovakia, showed up in England right around the time World War II was wrapping up, didn't have a penny to his name, and then within a few short decades, he became one of the wealthiest people in England. And wait for it, his name wasn't really Maxwell. And you say, what? No, he had changed his name. He wanted to sound more English. Yeah, sort of like Helen Mirren. And you say, her? Yeah. You think Mirren is her real name? No. Her name is Marinovich, because her people are from fucking Russia. Didn't know that, did you? Yeah, well, now you know. Yeah, guys, I remember she said that that's what happened to her family. Her family was poor Russians who showed up in England 5 seconds after the revolution, didn't have paint in their name, and therefore, in order to get by in England, they changed their name from Marinovich to Mirren because they felt it sounded more English. So there you go. And then, of course, as in the case of Maxwell, he, after creating Sky News, which is still around today, dies under mysterious circumstances on the back of his yacht while cruising off the coast of Spain, or maybe in Portugal, but somewhere in down there in the Iberia. Yeah. But anyway, I don't think Epstein, despite all that history, I don't think that Epstein worked for Mossad. I think just like with the JFK assassination, it's basically little crumbs that are trying to lead us astray. Trying to get people to go off in some tangent that's not going to lead anywhere, except maybe down some empty rabbit hole. Why? Simple. Israel is a small country, small population, small economy. Mossad, yeah, well-renowned intelligence service. But guess what? Just like the country of Israel, it is small too. It doesn't have the resources of a major nation state. like America. And when you look at the history of Epstein, it weirdly follows that of Elaine Maxwell's father. Because remember, Epstein, he was a school teacher. Yeah, a math teacher from what I recall. Yes, he did work in some highfalutin private schools up there in the tri-state area, but he wasn't rich. He didn't. His family. He didn't come from some wealthy background. Like Paris Hilton or some shit like that. No, he was regular working class, and yet there was a time period where between the early middle 80s and the early middle 90s, there's a lot of murkiness about his let's just say this, where he went and where he had gone to and who he hung out with. There's no real track record. But then when he started appearing in these public venues with the great hoi polloi and the elites, he was already wealthy. Indeed, if you recall, there's an old video of him hanging out with Trump from the early 90s. And let's not say this guy wasn't walking around living off of a teacher's salary. This guy had millions of dollars already in his bank account. And of course, as we all know now, Epstein was part of a contramat operation where he was using, unfortunately, underage ladies to draw in these wealthy elites and to these various, like Lolita Island, where they'd be recorded, and then they would use the recordings to blackmail these people. And indeed, anyone who's familiar with the Lolita Express knows where it came from. It came from the guy who used to run Victoria's Secrets. It was his airplane. And wait for it, you ready? There's no bill of sale between Epstein and the guy who ran Victoria's Secrets. It's as if the guy just gave Epstein the keys to that 727 airliner. You get it now? However, if you walk backward in time, there's this gap where you don't know where Epstein was, and more importantly, you don't know where his money came from. And of course, as you remember what happened with Woodward and Bernstein all those years ago in that parking lot with Deep Throat, he told them, you want to know the source of a conspiracy? Follow the money. Someone writing the checks is paying for this all. And once you find out who the paymaster is, you pretty much found out who is running this thing. In other words, who is the mastermind? As someone a lot smarter than me once said, who's hiding behind the curtain? Who's hiding behind the big scary mask and the loud voice? What is the true face of Oz, the great and powerful? And so far, we don't know who was behind Jeffrey Epstein. And that's true. And as you saw in Clayton's video, whoever it is, they are still around. And they are still doing whatever they can to make sure the truth doesn't come out. And that's the most frightening thing of all. Because Epstein clearly was working for somebody else. And no, it was not Mossad. It was the deep state. Because anyone who's been paying attention to Doge knows that the deep state cannot run on love and kisses. No, it runs on money. Taxpayer money. More money than the little state of Israel could ever hope to have access to. We're talking multiple untold billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars. And when you have that kind of loot to play with, you can cause a whole lot of havoc. And the fact that you have people inside the FBI who apparently are not following orders of anyone, not Kash Patel, not the AG, not the president, tells you right there, gives you some concept of who the true puppet master was behind Jeffrey Epstein. Just a quick reminder to all of you that my short story, The White Cat, is still available on Substack. The links are down below in the description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. And while you're looking up my oddball thriller, my book series, Glitch, is still available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookstores. The links are down below in the description. Join Ike and Sandra, a reluctant jewel thief and a kidnapped teen model who are on the run from the law across the American Southwest. Now, will we find out the truth? I don't know. But the people who are behind Epstein, they're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that truth never sees the light of day. And the question is, how far will they go to make sure that we never see the truth behind Epstein and his activities? Well, all I can say is, I hope Kash Patel and Bondi the best, because they're going to need it. Because, ever heard the phrase reaping the whirlwind? They're about to know what that truly means. No joke. Well, that's all I gotta say about the magical mystery behind the truth of Epstein and his blackmail operation. And that's my opinion.